Menesoha Benijinuma etenke ekomino ma wanyon ye afi akpe enyo no manyo ke ekpano na hyemoy ni hwone na wobwa na no ke ba hanye hyemoy na ekeji neti Facebook ya YouTube nyebanye ko woye Mbn 360 Mbn Adede shidan wa this with sanjam ni nye ha wokwa otiye ekumen
Amralo emachake moy oti anomi Keba Agbala Attorney General ke Justice Ministry team. Yes, shika kejwa yili sanjamie. Ghana shikato he wulwe onupa. Niji Bank of Ghana Governor ke fonjang ake. Ghana hijomo shika alo pension assets se efo CDA billion oha low 100 billion Ghana cedis. Niye manse sanjamie mwe. Gabon Mahin Yellow AG Chuchu Mahin Yellow Jerry John Rollins ni choice yi ake ejihe walewo ke ha chake moy oti ye amemam
Sanje enemeke ni bi kunkumenji no nyeba na ye wo hwane ne Adafitswaa agbene sanje mni botimone Amralo ehe susumoy ni Constitutional Review Committee kai Keba Agbala Office of the Attorney General Keja Ministry of Justice staying ewomni.
Ladies and gentlemen, this briefing would be incomplete without me telling you about the changes affecting my own ministry. It is not every day that a minister stands before the press to announce the splitting of his own ministry. The committee recommended removing the Attorney General's authority to prosecute corruption offenses and recommended requiring leave of the court before a prosecution will be discontinued. So, in other words, where the Attorney General wants to or wishes to file a nolle prosequi or terminate a prosecution, the commission was of the view, or is of the view, the committee is of the view that the Attorney General should provide reasons before doing so. Now, the government proposes that Article 88 be amended to remove the requirement that the Attorney General be a Minister of State. A separate portfolio of Minister of Justice will be established to oversee the justice sector, the justice and legal sector. The Attorney General will remain the principal legal advisor of the Republic and the repository of the prosecutorial authority of state, but will cease to be a Minister of State and a member of Cabinet. And to guarantee the prosecutorial independence of the office, a new clause will be inserted in Article 88 to give the Attorney General the same terms and conditions of service as a justice of the Supreme Court. This is a significant restructuring of the legal architecture of the executive, and I believe history will judge it kindly. In other words, whoever is appointed Attorney General after the amendments come into effect, if you want to remove that person, you have to go through the procedure enumerated under Article 146 of the Constitution. There has to be a petition, the determination of a prima facie case, etc., etc. I know that members of the media are used to this process, having followed keenly what has transpired within our republic. On constitutional amendment and the roadmap, government has accepted the introduction of a citizen initiative mechanism for constitutional amendment. Citizens will be able to propose amendments to the Constitution upon securing the support of registered voters, subject to minimum regional representation and gender balance requirement. The government proposes that the threshold be 10% of registered voters, rather than the 5% recommended by the committee, so that the mechanism is invoked only where a proposal commands substantial national support. The initiative will be triggered through the Council of State. The Constitution belongs to the people, and the people should be able to knock on its door directly when they show wish. Now, the roadmap is set out in this position paper for amendments of the Constitution is set out in this position paper, and it is deliberate and time-bound. Following today's publication, the President will swear in the Constitution Review Implementation Committee.
Ambralo Emma Mosusumoy uti neje Constitutional Review Committee nyamli kwemonomi. Tamobi amli ngbele mo ke ha amla opehe nu. Ke mla opehe keje afi ejwe. Ke ya afi enumo ni asa achi afi abonisa ake hara presidential candidates keba afi enuma eten ke enumo.
The government has accepted a recommendation to extend the term of office of the president from 4 years to 5 years, with the term of parliament extended to correspond with this. Our thinking is practical. Under the current 4-year cycle, the early months of every administration are consumed by transition matters, and the final year is largely consumed by elections. A 5-year term provides a more realistic time frame for the formulation, implementation, and assessment of government policy. Still on the presidency, the committee recommended that the minimum age of eligibility for election as president be reduced from 40 years, currently in the constitution, to 30 years. The government has accepted this recommendation in principle, subject to one modification. The minimum age will be 35 years, not 30 years. And of course, the details of this will be fashioned out by the Constitutional Review Implementation Committee. The current threshold of 40 years excludes qualified citizens from seeking the highest office on the basis of an arbitrary age limit. 35 is consistent with a trend in modern democratic constitutions towards greater inclusivity of the youth, whilst ensuring that a candidate for the highest office has attained a measure of maturity and experience to handle that office. We have also accepted that the presidential election be held on a day in the first week of November, as the Electoral Commission may specify by constitutional instrument. A fixed period gives certainty to the electoral calendar. It allows the Commission, the parties, and observers to plan, and it ensures an adequate interval between the election and the inauguration of the incoming president on January 7th. On presidential election petitions, the government has accepted that a petition must be filed within 14 days of the declaration of results and determined by the Supreme Court within 30 days. In other words, the Constitution will be amended to specifically provide for these timelines when it comes to the electoral petitions to be filed. And there is going to be a constitutional obligation on the part of the Electoral Commission to disclose all relevant data to the court and to all the parties. We take the position that this position because the timely resolution of election disputes inures well to the stability of our democratic transitions and to the general political stability of our country and society. The government has also accepted the principle that the president should not enjoy tax exemptions by virtue of office alone. The president will pay taxes on his salary and allowances, as well as the applicable indirect taxes on goods and services. The government has not, however, accepted the proposal to tax the president's retirement gratuity and pension, and the details of the president's tax liability will be worked out in the tax laws where such details belong. On Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, the government has accepted that the size of Parliament be capped. Before I go to Parliament, there is the issue of ministers of state and the number of ministers of state, which is one of the very, I would say, thorny issues that has bedeviled our democracy for some time now. Government has accepted the proposal to cap the number of ministers, but instead of 57, as the committee recommended, government is proposing that it should be capped at 60. So
Amralo ehe ewomli ake abacha ke death penalty ke fe life imprisonment ke fata ma gbejano to ichakimo oti ahi.
The government has accepted the recommendations to abolish the death penalty. Now, that is already underway in Parliament with the Honorable member for Medina, the Honorable Francis Xavier Sosu, leading the charge. So it's not new, but the committee made a recommendation on it. The relevant provisions of Article 3, 13, 19, and 72 will be amended accordingly, and offenses that previously attracted the death penalty will attract life imprisonment. The death penalty is inconsistent with the constitutional right to life and with Ghana's international human rights obligations under the UN conventions to which we are parties. Now, let me spend a moment on what I consider, in my opinion, as a key pillar of the position paper. That is what I call the proposed Human Rights Act. The committee made numerous proposals to expand the rights protected under Chapter 5 of our Constitution, including economic, social, and cultural rights, the rights of women, children, persons with disabilities, older persons, and the youth, the right to health care, the right to housing, the right to a clean and healthy environment, the right to food in custody, and many more. The government accepts the spirit of virtually all of these proposals. But here is the difficulty. Chapter 5 is entrenched, and every amendment to it requires a national referendum. Subjecting each of these new rights to a referendum would impose a procedural burden disproportionate to the gain from amending the Constitution in Chapter 5. The Constitution itself, ladies and gentlemen, shows us the way out. Article 33(5) of the Constitution provides that the rights expressly mentioned in Chapter 5 are not to be regarded as excluding others which are inherent in a democracy and intended to secure the freedom and dignity of man and woman. Pursuant to that provision, the government will enact a comprehensive Human Rights Act. The Act will elaborate on the rights already guaranteed, extend protection to the new categories of rights identified by the committee, incorporate Ghana's obligations under the international covenants I have mentioned, to which we are party, and provide detailed enforcement mechanisms, especially, resort to the High Court for redress where a human right violation has taken place. The Human Rights Act will be justiciable. It will improve standards that, as we evolve.
Amralwe ehe ewomli ake ameke Constitutional Review Committee susumoy ni ba mega na bi yagbe Canada citizenship kesa mehi egbena ye amralwe ni ba chuni chi amedamono no kegbena ke ha ma hienye lo ke ese kwele be na kan higbe.
Government has also accepted a recommendation on dual citizenship. A citizen of Ghana by birth who holds the citizenship of another country will no longer be barred from contesting for election to parliament only on account of his or her dual citizenship, and will not be required to renounce the other citizenship. The current disqualification sits uneasily with our engagement with the diaspora and with the realities of modern citizenship. In line with this proposal, it is also the case that multiple citizenship will no longer disqualify a person from becoming from holding certain offices, except that of a president and vice president of the republic. So the fact that you have multiple citizenship will not bar you from becoming Chief Justice of the Republic or becoming the head of the Electoral Commission or, for instance, becoming Speaker of Parliament. On to the judiciary. Regarding the judiciary, two positions deserve mention. First, the government supports a fixed tenure for the Chief Justice. That is a single, non-renewable term of 10 years or until the age of retirement, whichever occurs first. And the age of retirement of justices of the Supreme Court now is 70 years. So if these amendments come into force and a person is appointed Chief Justice, that person will serve a 10-year non-renewable term. However, if the person's retirement comes first, the retirement will take place and the person will have to exit as a Chief Justice of the Republic. The second thing that I want us to note about the judiciary is that the government supports capping the Supreme Court's membership. Currently, the committee recommended a cap of 15 justices. The government proposes 19. That is the Chief Justice and 18 justices of the Supreme Court. Now, this cap promotes efficiency, manages public expenditure, while the bench of 19 remains sufficiently robust to discharge the court's constitutional mandate.
Kefata Ghana afi numa enyoke ekumebi jonyeli ke ha Human Trafficking Act Criminal Investigation Department CID ejelepo ake Anti-Human Trafficking Unit nye sajin yoha kome numa eteke pawose nyese afi niyame yakpo menfe akpe ekome ke oha enyo niyame wo me pabum.
General Keha CID COP Lydia Yakondonko ewushin ake me fonji ne kan yenye anano gbaja plamai ano kenuchu mo ni je ano kwale kemi harame kepata amenye ni kechono no echeke ha shwamo nimli wa kekuno nena
and prosecution of offenders. 2 decades later, Ghana has made significant progress, but the fight is far from over. The Criminal Investigation Department, through the Anti-Human Trafficking Unit, continues to play a leading role in enforcing the acts. We have investigated cases involving child trafficking, forced labor, domestic servitude, sexual exploitation, and transnational trafficking networks. In 2025 alone, the Anti-Human Trafficking Unit at the CID headquarters received 127 cases, rescued 1,202 victims, sent 19 cases to court, and secured 8 convictions. Through sustained national effort and partnerships, Ghana has maintained its Tier 2 ranking in the U.S. Department of State's Trafficking in Persons report. However, trafficking is becoming increasingly sophisticated. Traffickers are no longer relying only on physical recruitment. They are using social media, smartphones, digital platforms, and encrypted messaging services to identify, recruit, and exploit victims across borders. Fake job opportunities, scholarships, educational programs, entertainment careers, domestic work, and travel opportunities are increasingly used as bait. Victims may surrender their passports, savings, and personal information, believing they are pursuing legitimate opportunities, only to find themselves trapped in forced labor, debt bondage, forced begging, domestic servitude, sexual exploitation, or other forms of modern-day slavery. The CID continues to investigate cases where victims were promised employment to Europe, the Middle East, or Asia, but were instead trafficked to other destinations and subjected to exploitation. We are also witnessing emerging forms of cyber-enabled trafficking involving online investment schemes, digital recruitment platforms, romance scams, and transnational online network marketing schemes. These criminal networks exploit unemployment, economic hardship, and the desire of young people for better opportunities. This changing threat requires a changing law enforcement response. The future of anti-trafficking enforcement must combine traditional policing with digital intelligence, cyber investigations, financial investigations, data analytics, digital forensics, responsible use of artificial intelligence, and international information sharing. The Ghana Police Service continues to strengthen these capabilities to identify victims, trace offenders, preserve digital...
Care one chashi mwe ano mansolo ni kwa ye beke bike ame afaba fu sajin ano nya mo Dr. Agnes na mulati mansolo no chumohi ni kwa ku krokume ke walo law development partners ni amewo ame modern boy ke je human trafficking ye Ghana mle hiwali
ye momli ye World Day Against Trafficking in Persons ni fe momli Dr. Lati ake shere mo ikome eba ye mene ahibuka faban formli mo ne shi hue ne chumo pi ye ni abachum kekuna gbanena Dr. Lati sa ite no ike kokobo ha mambi na ameha amehie akamo amehino keji ale no moko ke saniba fon amehie ke nkogbe fahi na ameye no ni blofocho ake too good to be true agbene hue moko ke o yahekwe sheda ni oshishia bonafe ni keji saniko ya baye ni oteye ale mopoten ni ababi
ni one mention by way of success allo moderni wombo J ministry epeno she immigration Ghana Police Service wo partners IOM IJM ke mofia money you ebo wo fe wo ke Ghana bi fe wo fe wo success ni she no ni ye hiaji ko kweboni trafficking yale. Even though what chalk neke success is there, there's still a long way to go. No ni kan wo here eda ni wobaya no ni wo put in fact ko kwe no ni kan wo here hia keshi woba put in more effort but na fe ni wonye ni wo prevent it from even happening. Ke wonye wo mia wo prevention me obana ke the success story will be greater and better. Shike wo ma hu ne happen than we rescue ni wo protect e wa shike wo prevent it's much better. Yes, we need to put in a lot more effort into prevention and protection. Ko okwe wo ke communication, Ministry of Communication Jia mepe ni egbeji ni yo shishi ni ko cyber security ke ni bi kokrume ni deal with digital platforms no woka me fe kume won kwemla ni won mi amla mi je no pe ho she ye ni tumogbe fan ake gbeke bi amenkwa digital space many yo ne kan wi ne kan ni sha me no na prosecutor me because ehia wa keke omo perpetrators oshiya me keke justice should be served ni anye ke onake amo mene no na fele ne wo se ko ya fe ku oba ko he no joba ni no delay o ame yifale perpetrators are yifale they were yes one modern cashin obachu with all other stakeholders, but the most important thing ni jake ke woni negbe
Amralo eji eni tigli ni yonya mlingbele mo wa mo ni keni ke ha weku ke bi ni ji mansolo ipanyo ni gbo ikecho manyawale nyongbe ni ji ipanyo nyese afi koyo lele oshna low helicopter crash me.
On the 6th of August 2025, Ghana lost 8 distinguished public servants in a helicopter crash. Since their state burial, government has worked closely with their families, providing support, love, care, and addressing their concerns. This afternoon, we close that chapter of process and paperwork and open a new chapter built around the future of the children and families of our fallen 8 heroes. Today at this ceremony, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama will lead the entire nation in presenting certain things to the families gathered here. We first have a government compensation check. I'm happy to report that the Office of the President worked closely with the Labor Department throughout a process of compensation payment, from completing accident report forms to filing court applications and also to attending proceedings at the Accra Circuit Court. This process was conducted under the Workmen Compensation Act and the Armed Forces Regulations, and we have secured compensation of over 13 million Ghana cedis for dependents of our fallen civilian heroes and compensation for the dependents of the 3 military officers also have been arranged. We also have legacy boxes. The name was chosen carefully to speak to the legacies and the sacrifices of our 8 fallen gallant heroes. They gave up their lives in the line of duty to the Republic of Ghana. It also captures the unending gratitude that Ghana continues to have for our gallant 8 heroes. Each legacy box contains a Children's Fund investment certificate, a commemorative medallion bearing the image of the family's loved one, and a personal letter written and signed by the President John Dramani Mahama to every child. We also have a health insurance package. Inside each health package is a unique card that will give each family access to healthcare coverage under the nationwide insurance premium plan worth 3 million Ghana cedis across the 27 beneficiaries. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today belongs first to our dear families gathered here, our widows, our mothers, our children, our dependents, who have carried this loss with quiet dignity for nearly a year. In a particular and deliberate way, it also belongs to our 19 children, who represents not what this tragedy took from Ghana, but what Ghana owes to their future.
Yes, Sanjin Kurokuma Mnie National Democratic Congress niji NDC masajata omokwe ewie ake amaye hemoke yeli ake abanye ame Supreme Court kojomo here ya masajata omokwe delegate system lo shiki formally achuni.
Ex-court lo kojomo ye fa ake delegate oshiki for penny masajanata omokui ke chuoni etom lake gbejanotoi ano ejake engme me fe agbe ni amenye amefo oshiki ke hara presidential ke parliamentary candidates yeri momlie NDC masajanata omokue deputy director ke ha IT ke elections Rashid Tanko computer ri ake masajanata omokue yehigbeni amekemla lo kojomone chuoning afine keji amemisumu ake amekechuning.
Use state resources when we are having a lot of challenges across the country, Accra floods and all these things that are worrying us. Look, educational sector, we're looking for money to end double track. We're looking at health sector. We are looking at a lot of the big push, opening up our road networks across the country. We should stop some of these things and use state resources to go and fund some people, political party. If you are a party and you can't organize yourself, fold up. If they can't organize it, they should fold up. They shouldn't bring that in. That should not be something for discussion at all. Why? Why should the state do that? Look, let me tell you, in 1996, 92 to 1996, the state was trying to help the political parties because we're just building our democracy. And I remember, through the NCC and the Electoral Commission, state gave some vehicles, they were NIVA, we called them NIVA, some small vehicles like that, to political parties then, and then help in training party agents in 96 to 2000. Now we have come of age. We have done all this over the period. We have built our capacities as political parties. And if you are a party, you cannot mobilize internally to run your activities. You want states to do that for you. Then you have no business of even coming to power.
Wabafo weheke wakuwase wakashika kejuraili sanjia baba hanye kachui.
So there's some look fast. Mama, me again. Yes, we are late. Me call you, ma'am. Who hear me? Me and sent my friend doctor when I'm crossing over. See what we saw. She has malaria. Malaria. Oh, what they say? What the router? Me copy the absence. A draw a friend router mixer. Yeah, come on, let draw. And running so
gap trap and the draw ku abaso body ase wabo ruta mixture abaso ruta natural products no ne ruta mixture ya e dikutia atiri ruta tonic and the ruta life wa ehuru efili srade bone efini padua mu nasa support immune system no ruta de obi ase ye FDA age dwede nkrato ya tu
Should I play you know ake okay be Mbn Adafitswaa no work about jeshishi kegbina ye shika ke juraili sanjam nie Ghana shika to he wulue onukpa Dr. Johnson Nesiama ewie ake Ghana hejomo shika low pension artists ete here keshe CDA billion ohakome niji 100 billion Ghana cedis ni chon dale kimni hiwale yegbenie ke wa mo search le ke hanoya.
Pension asset under management is estimated to exceed $420 billion US. And in Ghana, the 2025 Financial Stability Review that is published by the Financial Stability Council, it reported that pension assets grew by 26.3% in 1 year, from 86.23 billion cedis in 2024 to a little over 100 billion in 2025. And that the pensions industry accounted for 16.8% of Ghana's financial sector assets. At that scale, pensions are not peripheral to the financial system. They are one of its major pools of long-term domestic capital.
Wawa for he kewoku se wawa ya manse ni waya kweno ni ete no ejemi.
Ntitiasie no menene kunu eware wo odro ene asumdwe kwanso ya wawe na chi no mene kwachu ba hotel pop pebi say ye besepeyo. What a team for so crown na maye
bibia wo nyankopon sem
ekoba ne sa me kunu antena se
edro botum wajo eye edek SM bitches
wa eni gia befi we na me de Bible edek SMB test timase mama me
sa wa warrior mu enije bewie wo paya na ye kamfo edek SMB test Mrs. wa oyem ye onyina monno me no akọ one
Nonu wakaba jeshishi kegbina ye wana agbe hie money ji manse sanjam ni gabo ma yen lo bright clote oluguingwe ma enwo kai moriemo ke ha chuchu ma yen lo Jerry John Rawlings ni echon ese ni eke enupari ligbeja no to hiwalewo ni he na ke Jerry Rawlings de ni echaki gabo ma
ri ake chuchu ma yen lo Rawlings ni echon ese wo Africa onukpa ibabao ahiwale eke esusu moye kudo ame keto mlai nimlin wala shishin ke ha Gabon mahien yelo ingwe majie chuchu mahien yelo Rawlings modern boy ye Africa onukpa yelimlin ewie ake esusu moye kegbejano toye wa ame modern boy kejade hiwale wo ye nuchu moye amlin.
A well-deserved tribute that we have just paid to the memory of late President Rawlings for the Gabonese people and for Gabon as a whole. Through his writings and his speeches, I think that late President Rawlings inspired a good number of African leaders. I remember one of his quotes when he said, when the people are oppressed with justices as accomplices, the military have to take responsibility. And that's what inspired us to perpetrate the liberation coup in Gabon on the 30th of August 2023. I also remember another quote when he was taking power here in Ghana. He said that we are going to establish strong laws in Ghana so that even if the devil takes power here, he will not dwell one more day in power here in Ghana. So that's the spirit that guided the establishment of the new laws in the Fifth Republic that we have just established in Gabon right now. But two examples. The first is that in our laws we have established the limitation of the number of terms for a president. We have now 2 terms only for a president. The second example is that a son of a president cannot take over his father. We have established strong laws, tough laws against corruption. Now Gabon is attractive to investors. A lot of them are coming now to invest in Gabon. And it's thanks to him and his ideas. So that's why I would like to thank President Rawlings for showing me the way to lead the transitional period in Gabon in peace. And we were successful in Gabon thanks to him.
Baby any wakeshie mweba wa shin dan wobaya nye ha wokwa otiye eku
Amralo emachake moi oti anomi ke bagbala Attorney General ke Justice Ministry team. Yes, shika ke jawayili sanjamie Ghana shikato he wulwe onupa niji Bank of Ghana Governor ke fonjang ake Ghana hijomo shika alo pension assets se efo CD billion oha low 100 billion Ghana cedis. Niye manse sajami mwe Gabon mahin yellow AG chuchu mahin yellow Jerry John Rawlings ni echon iseyi ake ejihe walewo ke ha chake moy otiye amemami.
Mimoni keshie mo ebanyebenoji na adidi keche ofefe edrumo obakpe wose ochi nekebiam no nyenyiwala don ke wokumu